So I was staring at it, just trying to figure out, what the heck's going on here. And a couple seconds later, what happened blew me away. This creature stood up on 2 feet. I never saw its face. It did this pivoting motion as it was standing up, so it really kept its face hidden from me at all times. What I did see was first the side of the creature, and then as it turned, I saw its back, its shoulders. It took its first step with its left foot up the bank, and I saw its arms swing as it was moving. It was very, very fluid motion. This was not shuffling or moving around. It was very quiet, made almost no noise at all.
Hi guys, thank you for joining me back here again on the 401 Files. It's an absolute pleasure, as I always say, to be joined by so many like-minded people from all around the world. Now, before we dive into this one, please really quickly just give this video a thumbs up. Drop down in that comments box below whenever you feel necessary to share your thoughts, theories and opinions. Subscribe if you haven't already, you should have done, and share this content with like-minded friends and family as well. One of those 4 things, or all of those 4 things, will really, really help this channel grow, but also help me get recognised by the dreaded YouTube algorithm. Now, without further ado, guys, please do kick back, relax, and enjoy.
It looking at me was enough to scare the living shit out of me. And now, all of us, we were all armed as well, so I might want to throw that in. We all had M4 rifles. The guy next to me had an M4 with a 203 grenade launcher, and a guy that was over on my other side, he had an M249 machine gun. We're armed, and we're looking at this thing going, holy shit.
To give you a quick insight to what the weather's doing, as I always do now on these longer raw videos, try to immerse you guys in this experience as much as I can. On the drive here, the temperature was hovering between 3 and 4 degrees, so it's still quite cold, very cold to be honest. My fingers are feeling it even just holding the phone out in front of me. Still ice on the floor, so yeah, still very cold. But to look at, it's beautiful. It's like a summer's day, crystal blue skies, not a cloud in sight, just one of those very fresh wintry type mornings. So as I was walking down this track, there was a big buzzard just flying really low alongside me. It was great. I got to see quite clearly all the details in the feathers, and it's a beautiful looking bird. When I was a kid growing up, we never really got to see that many birds of prey because a lot of the birds of prey here in the UK were extinct or were dying out and very, very rare to see. So thanks to the release programs that took place during the late 80s, early 90s, a lot of these raptors, buzzards, falcons, they're all making a really big comeback here in the UK, which is nice. It's nice to see. Come. Heel. 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 Good dog. Stay. Stay, Lily. Go. Good dog. Good dog. Try and situate this camera a bit better. How is that? Not good, man. Not good at all. Okay, so, oh man. What is your problem today, camera? So, as always, guys, it's that awesome time again where I sit down in the forest to read out one of the creepy email stories that come into me. The beautiful thing is, since mentioning that you guys can email me with your encounters, I've had hundreds and hundreds of people just sharing their stories from all different parts of the world, places that I've never even heard of before. And it's fascinating because it doesn't matter what ethnicity you are, what religious background you have, what continent you live on. It doesn't matter, male or female, young or old, people are experiencing very, very strange phenomena. It seems to have no bias whatsoever, which is intriguing to me. It's not just like it's one religion making stories up to use that fear factor and keep people in line. This is happening to religious people, non-religious people, and everything right across the board. But this story that I've got to share with you today is a completely mind-blowing experience. And I do have to give a disclaimer, as always, because I can't confirm the validity of any of these stories that I tell, because I don't know these people personally, and I definitely don't have the resources to fact check. I can't go chasing up the background of these people or, making sure that their claims are accurate. I can't do that. I just don't have the resources, the time, or the manpower to do that with everyone. I just have to say what I'm told in the hopes that they are being genuinely honest people. Now, this next one, I have no doubt in my mind, is a genuine account, or if it's not genuine, she actually believes what she saw was real. This came in from a 70-year-old woman, lived a lot of life, and she lives out in the Yorkshire Dales. Now, for anyone that lives across seas who is unfamiliar with the UK and how it may look, the Yorkshire Dales is the stereotypical version of what you might think the English countryside looks like. Rolling hills, valleys, lakes, and large open expanses of wooded areas. It's a very, very beautiful, picturesque place to live. And this 70-year-old woman has lived out there pretty much all her life, she was saying, and never seen anything strange, never experienced anything before until this day. She was going to pick up her grandchildren, which was a 25-minute journey from where she lived, going up over all these green, lush hills through the valleys, as you can imagine. And as she came around one bend, I think she mentioned it was almost like a dirt road, like a country lane. Off to the right of the road, she saw something hunched over, which she thought was an animal of some kind, but she wasn't familiar with what she was looking at. It was black, and it had very short, coarse fur. It was hunched over, and it seemed to be eating something off the side of the road. Now, when she drove past and she had a really good look out the window, this thing had the head of a German Shepherd, but it was crouched down like a human would, and it was holding a sheep to the floor. Mind blown. Like, can you imagine how terrifying that would be? She said even kneeling down, this thing was 4.5 feet tall. When she drove a bit further past, this thing kind of rose up and tried to pull this sheep off the side of the road to where there was a stone drywall, and it must have been about 6.5, 7 feet tall at this point, gauging from the size of that stone wall. She said that she's never seen anything like it before, and the fur was as black as you can ever imagine. This was broad daylight. This wasn't the early hours. This wasn't late at night. This was broad daylight, going to pick the grandchildren up, and then she sees this thing that has the head of a German Shepherd and the body of a man. Hands, not paws. She didn't see any tail. There was no glowing eyes or anything like that, but the ears were like Doberman pincher ears on the side of the head, and it was clearly indulged in tearing and ripping apart this sheep as she came around the corner. What the hell is that? Like, what the hell is that? I've seen almost every single animal there is to, be seen here in the UK. I know exactly what we have in certain parts of the UK and what we don't have. I've never seen anything with a German Shepherd head that can use hands, not paws, to pull a large sheep away from the side of the road. Sheep are heavy. A single man on his own would struggle to pull a dead sheep off the side of the road. It takes effort. Yet this thing just grabbed hold of it with ease, stood up to the height of about 6.5, 7 feet tall, and pulled this thing away to where this dry stone wall was. She said that in the email she was saying that as she drove on down the road, she arrived at her son's house and was in complete shock. She didn't even really know what to say to him, how to explain it, and she worried that if she did, he would probably think that she's going mental because of her age. She's 70 years old. But again, marbles intact, she's on the road, she's driving, She's going to pick the grandchildren up. She sees this thing and she details something which is almost identical to other stories that we hear from around the world. So has she made that up and just got lucky with the details, with the information, the description? That'd be a hell of a guess, right? If you just mistakenly saw something and then started to fire out the details of what you saw and it was in line with what hundreds of other people see, and you did that unknowingly, that would be a massive coincidence. Unless, of course, what you say you saw, you did see, and this thing is real. Fascinating story, and I have no idea. I'll be honest with you guys. Here in the UK, dogman stories are few and far between. They do exist. They are out there. People are seeing strange things that resemble canines on 2 feet, but they are very few and far between. So this, for me, getting a story like that in was awesome. So thank you so much for sharing that with me. I won't put your name on the video, and I won't share that with the community here on the channel because you've asked to remain anonymous, and I will always honour that as well. So if you are looking to send a story in, if you do want to share an encounter, just leave it in the email that you want to remain anonymous. I promise you now that has no impact on the validity of your story, because I understand. I'm not going to ridicule you or think that you're any less believable because you don't want your name putting out there to the world. I understand why you're doing that. It doesn't knock the validity of what you're saying, I promise. But crazy story, and I have no answers for what you saw. I don't even know where to begin with that. Like, black fur, the head of a German Shepherd. What is that? What is that eating a sheep off the side of the road down a little dirt country lane? If any of you guys have seen anything similar, then please do email me in, because I'm trying to build up a catalogue of these stories, these encounters, to try and make sense of what the hell it is. For me, that is not misidentification. She's, and I hate to stereotype here with this. Elderly people, genuinely, as a rule of thumb, drive really slow. I think we can all agree. They drive really slow. They're really overcautious. And so she really did get a good look at this thing. There was plenty of time for her to figure out whether this was a misidentification of some kind, or if it was just something completely normal that she'd mistaken. But no, she swears that what she saw was almost werewolf-like here in the UK, sat at the side of a country road. I have no idea, but fascinating nonetheless. Do you know what's crazy? I'm just thinking of the story I've just shared there with you guys, of the elderly woman's encounter regarding a dogman, if that's what we're calling it. I guess that's what we have to call it, right? It had the head of a German Shepherd. What else could it be? But you never hear of other weird things, do you? Like, let's just say this was all people's imagination and people were all just telling the same lie or making up these stories. Why is dogman, why is Bigfoot the trending creature? Like, you never hear of a ferret man or a frog man. It's always Bigfoot or a dog man. There has been a Mothman, but again, hundreds of people report seeing the Mothman. So strange how you don't ever get any other kind of weird creatures being popularized. It's always the same ones over and over again. Okay, so I'm just walking down this track. There's like a little clearing in front of me going through the woods, but Sounded like the predator. There's a little clearing, there's a little gap through this wooded area here, but then it drops off down a big hill. So I'm going to go down there and hopefully it'll pop me out somewhere that I can explore further into areas unknown. This way. So yeah, we're going to go through here now to where I've just heard predator. I'm pretty sure it was just a tree creaking. On this channel, who knows? Good girl, Lily. Lily, chill out, because that is a cliff. You can see now it's gradually going down this hill, getting steeper and steeper. I feel like at the bottom here, it's just going to drop off. So I might have to go careful. Lily's down there already, I think, but she's got 4 legs and I've got 2, so I'm kind of at a disadvantage. This is what it's all about though, right? Getting out and exploring places that people don't go. Like if you look around where I am now, 0 litter. Nobody has been here. There's not 1 footstep, not 1 empty can of Coke. It's just off the beaten track. This is what you class as off the beaten track. This is not a designated trail. You will not find this on any national park map. But that's what I do. I like to get out and come away from those tracks, away from people. Whoops, just nearly fell. Yeah, it's gradually getting steeper now, so I'm gonna have to be very careful while holding the phone out. Jesus. I'm gonna have to scoot underneath this. Wow. Lily, come. Come. You need to stay close by. It's quite difficult trying to navigate my way through all these fallen trees. Beautiful though, absolutely beautiful. You know what's really creepy is that because in this little valley it's so bright, the sun's coming through and it's highlighting all these greens, making them luminous almost, that your eyes adjust to this light. But then what happens is just off to the left and right of me where the woods is pitch black, because I mean you've just seen the camera there try to adjust. That'll pretty much work in the same way that my eyes does, but it's still darker than it should be. Because I'm stood out in the light, so I can't see anything, basically is what I'm saying. off into the woods at either side of me for being blinded by this light, which is a creepy, claustrophobic, anxious type feeling when you're walking through something like this and you can't see off to the left and right of you. Hopefully now it'll get better. The sun's dipped below the horizon, so I can see a bit more clearer up into these trees. Yeah, I wonder how much of this is storm damage as well. We've recently had a big storm come through the UK and it's created loads of tree fall in this national park. So you've got to be very, very careful. And even those trees that haven't toppled over will be quite unstable now as well. So, yeah. Oops. So this is the kind of scenario you hear a lot about. People walking through valleys, very much like this one that I'm in. It's only small, but you know, they look up onto the ridge and they see something stood up there, observing them walk through. I hear stories like this all the time. In fact, there was one guy, a hunter. He was trying to make his way back to the truck. He'd left it a bit too late. Nightfall was closing in, and as he was cutting through an area very much like this, he looked up onto the ridge. It's now getting dusk, visibility is quite low, and he sees the silhouette of a very, very tall man stood up on there, watching them walk through. It sounds like there's a buzzard above me. Yeah, so his first initial reaction was that there was another guy up there. So just as a kind gesture, he decided to wave, and at that point, this thing took like a step back as if to say, oh crap, I've been seen. And he believes that this creature, whatever it was, Bigfoot, dogman, whatever it may have been, thought it was concealed. But the problem it had was that the background at the top of the hill wasn't as dark as the silhouette of this creature, and that's what made it stand out. So when he waved, this creature obviously thought, crap, he can see me. And it took a big step back into the woods and disappeared. But can you imagine having to complete the rest of the journey through an area like this after seeing something up there looking down at you? No, thank you. But we hear those stories a lot, you know, like where these creatures, Bigfoot, cryptids, they don't always get it right. And I've said this about the extraterrestrial phenomena as well. They do make mistakes. They're not flawless. They're not perfect. And especially in the cryptid world, these creatures sometimes get it wrong. They stand out on the brow of a hill, or they're silhouetted by the background, and they almost have this moment of, oh crap, I've been seen. So yeah, they're not perfect, which gives them, I don't know, almost an animalistic type feel rather than a supernatural one. Although I guess if we shouldn't assume that supernatural things aren't flawless either. We don't know how that works. I mean, wow, look at that now. Yeah, you can really see this hill now. Like, seeing something as you come into this clearing, standing up there would be pretty scary.
I fell asleep pretty early, and I heard a loud a twig or twigs breaking right outside my window. So I get up out of bed and I go to my door, And I thought something told me to look out the window because our door had 9 panes. It had 3, 3, 3. And then, oh my God, I saw right underneath the street lamp, which was no more than 25 feet from me, this gray lizard walking on 2 bipedal. And he got halfway out of the road and his tail was still halfway in that road.
So I've hit a bit of a snag. I can't carry on going forward because if I do, there's some wild ponies grazing in this field, and I could put Lily on the lead, but with the wild ponies even out of the equation, I'm still going in the wrong direction for when I need to head back to the car later on. And I don't know how far I'll be walking that way before I realise that I'm lost, or it's getting dark and I need to start heading back, and at which point, how will I know where I am and which way to go? I could go this way, up this great big hill, hopefully join the trees at the top, find a track and make my way back that way. I've just literally come through here. So I would be heading in the right direction that way, I guess. It's just I've got to climb that big hill and I don't know how far out my way that track will take me, or even if it goes past the route that I've just taken. So yeah, I feel more confident about climbing this hill than I do going this way, because this is the field where the wild ponies are and it's just going to be a nightmare. So yeah, up the hill I go, I guess. Oh man, I'm not looking forward to this. This way, Lil. We're going up the hill, man. I guess one thing positive to come out of this is that the views at the top should be quite nice. It's just the terrain is dreadful, like really bad. This is where I become the Bigfoot, isn't it? This is where I become the Bigfoot on top of the brow of a hill, and someone down here walking through will see me and be like, oh my God. Just when I've been telling you guys about these encounters, I'm now going to become the cryptid myself because I took the wrong direction. Well, I haven't really took the wrong direction. I didn't have a direction to start with. I've just pretty much got lost again. And now having to correct that. Whew. God, I'm not even 10 meters up this hill and it's already killing the calves. Oh, man. Just think though, if I hadn't have come out today, what else would I have been doing? It's good for the brain, it's good for the mind. So I'm quite happy that I've got out, even if it does mean climbing this big hill in potential adder territory. It's a bit cold for adders yet though, I think. Although when the sun's shining like this, you never know, do you? They could come out just to bathe on one of these logs, these stumps. Whew. Wow, such a cool view already. Still frost on the ground over there. The trouble is, if you lose your footing here, it's going to be very hard to stop yourself, so you're just going to keep going down this hill, which will not be a pleasant experience. So you just have to make sure that before each step, your feet are well and truly dug into the dirt, that you've got a firm grip of something, because all this stuff below me is loose bracken and deadfall, so you get your feet in a twist and the momentum takes you down the hill. You ain't stopping in a rush. What a view though. Absolutely stunning. Is that cryptid territory or what? That is definitely cryptid territory. Ah, nice to meet you. Thanks for waiting. Much appreciated, Lil. Wow. What a view. I've just come right up this big hill. Oops, trying to stand on the log. Right, okay, so we now need to find a track of some kind. This is a game trail. Slash track of some kind used by someone, probably the game warden, but we need a tarmac track. So something that's considered to be quite woo, like really out there, is the interdimensional theory. The idea that these beings, entities, UFOs or extraterrestrials are somehow able to go from one dimension into another. And it's hard because we struggle with understanding that. We live in a three-dimensional world. So for us to understand 5 or 6 or even 10 dimensions, our brain just will not compute how that's possible. But let me give you the best analogy that I've ever heard for this. So if you imagine a desk, and on that desk is a piece of paper. On the piece of paper is a civilization of flat, two-dimensional beings. They've lived there their whole life, and that's all they've ever known. They can only go up and down the paper or left and right on the paper. They can't come up and away from the paper because that's entering the third dimension, what we live in. So one day you decide to grab a pencil and you draw a big circle on this piece of paper. And to the people in the two-dimensional world, in Flatland, on this piece of paper, they see this big mark appearing in the sky. Well, it wouldn't even be the sky because they can't look up. It'd just be in their world, let's just say. And they're absolutely mind-blown as to how this thing has appeared out of nowhere. And then you grab a rubber and you rub it out and now it's vanished. And they're like, what the hell? What was that? They're completely creeped out. They've got no explanation for what's just happened. It seems paranormal. It seems weird. But really, if you could pick up one of those two-dimensional beings off the piece of paper and lift them away into the 3 dimensions that we live, he would just see that you're sat at a desk using a pencil, and that's all it was. It's not even really that mind-blowing once you understand. And it makes me think, like, how many things appear and disappear? How many experiences do we have with things that defy logic and we're completely mind blown when really, if somebody would give us access to, say, the fifth dimension or the fourth dimension, which is space and time, we would just step back and be like the same as the 2D people and go, wow, that's all it was. It wasn't even a big deal. It's just that we didn't have access to see what was going on in the fifth dimension. You know, maybe I'm making this sound more complicated than it is, but hopefully that analogy makes you see sense, like as to why the interdimensional theory isn't too hard or much of a stretch to believe. There could be a lot of weird things happening in and around us on this planet that we think are mystifying and creepy and, you know, a bit woo, but really it's just that we don't have access to these other dimensions, and once we do, we'll be able to step back and go, right, okay, I get this now. It's not even that big of a deal. It's kind of like the magician, right? He shows you a trick, you're absolutely mind blown until he says, oh, well, actually, I just did this. Once the magic's out of once the cat's out of the bag, you know, it's very simple to understand, and it's no longer a mystery. I wonder if that applies to the phenomena like Bigfoot, like Dogman, like the UFOs and extraterrestrials. I guess we'll never know unless somebody somewhere gains access to a high dimension.
In the hidden corners of our planet, is it even remotely possible that strange creatures still await discovery? Perhaps these beings have thrived in nature for millions of years and have evolved to blend into their surroundings to almost complete perfection. These undiscovered entities might hold secrets to evolution and resilience. They may even help reshape our understanding of biology and our place in the universe. As we explore further, we should always keep an open mind, for the most unusual creatures yet to be discovered may reveal the most profound truths about life itself.